In the next 20 minutes, I'm going to show you how to build a fully functioning text editor using Qt and C++. We'll add all the essential features, creating new files, opening existing ones, saving your work, and even highlighting. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how text editors work under the hood, and you'll even have built one from scratch. Let's jump in. All right, let's take a look at some code. I'm going to start with the boilerplate. So create a class, QMain window, and I'll inherit from the Notepad, I'll inherit from the QMain window. And my constructor, and my destructor. And a string, QString, which will be the contents of the current file. That'll contain what we need. Now the next thing I'm going to need to do is I'm going to have to create the form. Now I've started the form. And I've created the Q actions. So here's all my Q actions. Add them to the menu. We can do that simply by saying type here, and I attached an icon to them. Now what I need to do now is I'd like to actually make a little toolbar. So if I want to make a toolbar, say add toolbar. Now there'll be a toolbar up here. I can then say take my actions and I can drag them where they need to be. So here's one, the new. I'll have another one for open. And I can have another one just for save. And I can also create an undo or a redo. But for now, I'm just going to keep these three. Now the next step. Well, the next step, let's take a look at the actual application being run. So here it is. Here's my notepad. Here's all the buttons. Now let's go back and take a look at that form again. So coming back to the form, the other thing I added was I added a text edit. And the text edit is over here. Q text edit. So this was added. Drag and drop. And I renamed the text edit to text edit, the object name. I did all of this just to save some time. So let's go ahead and run this again. And you see, the text edit, it already gives us something we can edit. You can type, you can select all, carriage returns. We have all our buttons. Open, save, and new. A lot of it just point and click. Makes things a lot easier with Qt. Qt is great. Okay, now let's go back to the code. Now we have a little bit of code to write. So let's get started. Alright, so the first things we need to do, we need to write some methods for a new document. So when the user wants to create a new document, we'll need a method. We'll also need a method for opening. We'll need a method for saving. And I'll go ahead and speed this up a little bit. Let's create a new method for not only just save, but we have to save as. And let's create a bunch of new ones. Let's create one for the ability to select a font. Let's create one for making the font bold. Let's create another one for setting the underline. And let's create one for setting italic. I want to take all of these and implement them. Well, I can choose right click. Now let's go ahead and switch to the CPP. Look at that. That's beautiful. It makes life pretty easy. And now let's go take a look at the actual methods we created. So here are the methods I created. But I'm thinking, in order for me to be able to attach these, I have to use Q actions. And in order to use Q actions, what I need to do is I need to actually be able to set a signal and a slot So the one thing that I missed, I need to make these slots. Now I'm choosing to make them private because I'm not going to share them. So here are my slots. Now I need to make the connections. So in the constructor, right here, inside this constructor, I'm going to go ahead and start adding all of my connections. So I'll do the first one. So connect, and I want to connect the UI, and I want to connect that to action new. And what I'm going to connect it to is I'm going to connect it to the queue action, and the event will be triggered. I then want to specify the location of where the next method is, in this case, this, because it's located in the Notepad CPP. And I want to pass Notepad new document, just like that. And that's how I bind the two together. Now to make this a little faster, speed things up, I have a few of these prepared. So I want the open, the save, and the save as. The next ones I want to set are the font, the bold, and the underline. So I'll take those two. Here we go. So now that these are all connected, now let's go ahead and implement. Okay, so now it's time to implement some of these methods. So the new document, I think the first thing that has to be done is we're going to have to change this, the current file. We're going to have to clear the contents of the current file. So we take a look at the current file. Here it is. So this current file right here, which is declared here. And actually, well, you know what? I forgot to do this. There we go. I like to have m underscore for my private variables. So I'm going to clear the contents of the current file. And then the next thing I need to do is I actually need to set the text of the text edit to empty. And so what I'll do for that is I'll just set it to a Q string. And that should be it. So whenever I create a new document, it should erase everything. So let's give it a try. So here we go. Hello, how are you? And if I create a new one, there it is. Nice. So that works. So now the next method I want to do is open. So I want to open the contents of a file. So the first thing I need to do is I need to create a Q string, and the Q string will be assigned the Q file dialog. So the contents of the Q file dialog right here, we take a look at this. It opens up the file name. We can provide the window parent, the caption, the directory, and a filter. The filter can be a text, CPP file, header file, etc. And then a selected filter by default, so it could be a list. And the options. We dig more into the options. Here, the flag for the options right here, these. So we can show directories only, overwrite dialog, etc. So those are the options, which is an enumeration. So now let's go back to our Q file dialog. Once this dialog gets opened and we've selected a file, we need to check to make sure the file actually has something. So if the file doesn't have anything, then the next thing that we need to do is just abort. So this file is empty. There's nothing to do, just abort. Then what we'll do is we actually need to create a Q file from the contents of the file. So here's our Q file with file name. And so the next thing that we'll have to check is we need to, well, not check, but we need to set the current file. Oops. We need to set the current file equal to the str file. There. So now we can store that contents. Now we're going to open it. So we're going to give a message if things don't work out the way we would like them to. So if the file is not opened, right, then we're going to issue a warning, which is QMessageBox warning, cannot open file, and whatever the error is. And if you want to take a look at some of these things, so if you select message box and in Qt Creator, right click and choose context help. Qt Creator has a pretty good help section. So then this one in particular, warning, and there are different types. So this will show an icon in the upper left corner. So there are standard buttons on the Qt message box, like the OK and the cancel. See? All this stuff. So, but I don't want to dive into a rabbit hole, which you kind of did. Sorry about that. All right, so continuing on. All right, so the next thing I need to do is I want to set the window title. And the window title will be the str file name. I then want to set a Q's text string or text stream. I want to read the text. I want to put the text into the text box and then close the file. So make things move along a little faster. Here we go. So this is what I'd like to do here. Then the next stage will be to create saving. So now we're taking a look at the save. So in the save, I'm pretty much going to do almost the same thing. The only difference is instead of open file name, I'll use the get save file name dialog. So I'm going to replicate this. But this time, I just want the string. I'm just going to declare the string variable. Then I want to check the current file. And in this file, I change my variable names. There we go. And I need to open up the actual dialog box. And now we'll check to see if the file is empty. Right in here. And there's my file name. And there's my file name. Okay. So, whoops, did this twice. Ooey. There we go. Now the reason why I need this, I'll check it later on. And I can actually set it there. So check the empty file name. That'll pop up in this dialog box, and then run it. Now this is where it gets tricky, because I need to open up the dialog, and I need to open it up with the write-only parameters, whereas in here, this was read-only, but for saving, I want it to be write-only. And so everything else would be similar. It'll pretty much be similar to what we see up here. So I'll basically take that, and I will begin to change it. Except, unlike up here, it says cannot open, I'll choose cannot save. I'll be using write-only, and of course it will be text. And if you want to take a look at what these are, you see we could use not open, read-only, write-only, read-write. We could append, so we could add to the document. We could truncate the document. We can make it a new only or existing only. So those are just some of the enumerations that were created with the Q file. Then I'll issue an error string if it fails and return. Otherwise, save the contents. And remember, that's just save. So that's like if you just press Control S, it'll save. The reason why it's checking to see if the contents was empty, because if the contents is empty, then it will pop up in the dialog box, just like you do when you save. So if you were to save a text file and it never was saved before, you don't want to just save it arbitrarily to an unknown location. You want to bring up a dialog box, and that's what I'm doing here. So now if I choose Save As, that's going to pretty much just follow this last section. So what I'll need is I'll need to actually gather this file name and assign it to the get saved file name. So very similar to the open dialog. So I'll do this. And I'd still like to do my str in front. Then I'll check the file name, make sure it's not empty. There. And if it is, I'll just return. Then I need to create the Q file, and the Q file will be created from the str file name. I like to have a little space in there. So then the next step is to actually check the file, whether it's open. And I'll do the same thing as I did above here. So I'm basically going to do this right down here. See? They're identical. Then my next step, the next step will be actually output the file, which is what I'm doing here. So here's my current file, except I want it to be m underscore. And I want this to be the file name and the file name. And it will capture all of this text and save it. Whereas up here, I was just capturing the text from here. Now this save as needs to save that string inside the current file. You see, that's file name, file name, and I'll create my text stream with the output information. So far, so good. Now let's go ahead and try just save. There's save. So let's go ahead and create a new one. So it cleared out the contents. Now if I try to open it, yeah, nice. So let's just get rid of this. Let's save again. And I can even use Control S. See that? Look, save. Clear it out. Open it up. Beautiful. So now we have a working version. We could save, we can open, and we can create new documents. Okay, so now they're going to go ahead and add something where I can change the font. So let's come down and look at our code here. So give the ability to select a font right in here. So the first thing we want to do is we actually want to see if the font's selected. Okay, so we'll go ahead and check that first. So we'll create a Boolean over the font selection. Then the next thing is we just want to pop up a font dialog box. And to be able to do that, we're going to go ahead and call this get font. So if we right click, go on to context help. Let's take a look at this. Just a moment. So to call the font dialog box, we get the font. You have to pass it a variable, a Boolean. They're using OK. In ours, we're using font selected. And you can pass a default font with a size, and then the location of the parent window. Then we check to see if the font is selected. Otherwise, they've canceled and you can get out of it. So let's go back to our code. Okay, so back to the code. So after I go ahead and pass that font dialog, I'll then go ahead and I want to check to see if that font dialog is selected or created. And if it's true, then we'll go ahead and actually set the font. Now I'm going to run it. Go ahead and type something in. Hello, how are you? There we go. Go ahead and I'll select everything. Choose my edit menu, choose the font. And here we go, nice. It gives me all the text. So let's go ahead and choose, I don't know, this one. And increase it. That's some craziness down there. I must not have that font. Let's see what happens, see if I break it. Oh, it worked. Must be a display issue. That's great. I'll go ahead and try another font. Let's see. Font. Oh, and I can search. Let's do this. Select. Oh, that's neat. Maybe I'll do another one. Oh, this one. I'll make it really big. 25. Well, that's pretty neat. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, back to my code. So now we're going to do a little trickery. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and check the Boolean of bold. So I'm going to say bold. And I want to check to see if the text edit, the font weight, I want to set that to Q font bold. And if it is, then I'll go ahead and copy this. I want to set this to normal. So that should take care of the font bold. Now for italic I can make it a little easier. The italic, I could do this. Oops. We'll do it on line next. Put it in the wrong place. That's all right. There we go. And then for here, whoops, that's too bad. I'll go ahead and copy this. Font italic and italic. There we go. Beautiful. Now, those are all my methods. Now, if I go ahead and run this, you notice I can't test anything right now because I didn't put it in there. So let's go back and actually create the buttons for bold, underline, and italic. Now looking at my system, my UI, what I'd like to do now is I'd like to enable all three of these. But I could just click on it, move italic, bold, and underline. And now they're all enabled. Now I'll go ahead and save. Now let me go ahead and build and run. Let's take a look. Here it is. Here's our little icons. Hello. Do I work? Whoop, there we go. Go ahead and select all. Let's go ahead and change the font. And I'll make it, let's see. Oh, look at this color. I'll make it that font. Well, that kind of looks bold itself. Maybe Bookman. Oh, that's nice. There we go. Now, Big Tester, is it going to work? Yeah, look at that. Now, turn that one off. Italic, that one works. Underline, that one works. Now, what if we combine? Oh, look at that. What if I do this one? Nice. So it works. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. My own little text editing program. Maybe we'll expand upon this, make it a little more complex, put in some really neat new things. But for now, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this.